The pact I made with Lucifer. There are choices that define us, and there are those that destroy us. I made mine on an August night in 2023, inside an abandoned house on the outskirts of Detroit, with the smell of sulfur burning my nostrils and warm blood still dripping from my fingers. 3 drops. That's all it took to seal my fate. My name is Michael Carter. I'm 34 years old, and I worked as a physical therapist at a clinic downtown. Before the pact, I was just another ordinary man trying to survive the chaos my life had become. After it, I became something else, something lesser, something damned. People always ask, why would you do something like that? How could anyone be so stupid? And I understand their disbelief. Sitting here in this room I no longer recognize as my own, with the curtains drawn and daylight being just a distant memory, I ask myself the same thing. But the truth is, no one makes a pact with the devil when things are good. No one seeks darkness when there's still enough light to see the path. I didn't seek it out of ambition. I didn't dream of mansions, imported cars, or power. I just wanted to breathe without each breath hurting. I wanted to sleep without waking up drenched in sweat, with my heart pounding so hard it felt like it wanted to escape my chest. I wanted to look in the mirror and recognize the man I saw reflected there. But Lucifer doesn't negotiate salvation. He negotiates illusions. And I was foolish enough to believe I could control the consequences. Now, as I write these words with trembling hands and the certainty that he's here, always here, watching from some dark corner of this apartment, I need to tell what happened, not as a warning. Warnings are for those who still have a choice. This is a testimony, a record of what happens when you sell your soul and discover too late that the price was never just yours alone. It all started to fall apart 6 months before the pact. February 2023 was when my life began to crumble like a condemned building. My mother, Carol, had her first stroke. She was only 61 years old, but decades of poorly controlled hypertension did the inevitable. I remember receiving the call from my sister, Jennifer, at 3 in the morning. Her voice was broken, desperate. "Mike, come quick, Mom, she's not moving right." I spent that entire early morning at Detroit Receiving Hospital, watching doctors move my mother from one place to another, as if she were just another body. She survived, but half her face remained paralyzed. Her speech became slurred, confused. The woman who raised 2 children alone, who worked 30 years as a seamstress, now needed help even to go to the bathroom. And I, the physical therapist in the family, couldn't help her. Each rehabilitation attempt seemed useless. Every exercise I proposed only highlighted how much she had lost. 2 weeks later, I lost my job. The clinic where I'd worked for 7 years was going through restructuring, corporate code for "we're firing everyone to cut costs." Dr. Anderson, the owner, didn't even have the courage to look me in the eyes when he signed my termination papers. He just pushed the papers across the desk and mumbled something about difficult decisions and, "I hope you understand." Understand. I had bills to pay. I had my mother's medication, which cost almost $1,000 a month. I had overdue rent. I had a maxed-out credit card after covering hospital expenses. Sarah, my girlfriend of 4 years, broke up with me in March. She said I was different, distant, always stressed, as if I could be anything else with the hell I was living through. She packed her bags one Saturday afternoon while I was visiting my mother and left only a note on the kitchen table. "I can't stand seeing you like this anymore, sorry." April was when the anxiety transformed into something darker. I started having panic attacks. The first one happened at the supermarket. I was in the checkout line when I felt my chest tighten, as if someone were crushing my lungs with their hands. I abandoned my cart and ran out, gasping with blurred vision. I spent 2 hours sitting on the curb, waiting to be able to breathe normally again. The nights were worse. I spent hours lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the crushing weight of everything I had lost and everything I was still going to lose. The silence of the apartment was deafening. Sometimes I just wished to disappear. It was on one of those nights that the idea began to form. The first time I heard about the house was in a bar conversation. I don't usually frequent bars. I was never much of a drinker. But that July night I needed to get out of the apartment. The walls were suffocating me. I went to a simple dive near Woodward Avenue, ordered a beer I barely touched, and stayed there watching the people around me, trying to feel normal again. That's when I heard 2 men at the next table talking in low voices. Joe Ferguson pulled it off, I swear. The guy was broke, didn't have a penny, And now he has a store downtown and 2 cars. Cut it out, Tony. You believe in that crap? Believe it or not, the fact is he went from rags to riches in less than 3 months. And everyone knows how. How? A pause. The man called Tony leaned forward, lowering his voice even more. The house, that old house over in Highland Park, they say there's a guy there who makes the Pact. My blood ran cold. Not because of the idea itself. I had grown up hearing stories of pacts with the demon, urban legends about crossroads and souls sold, but because of the seriousness in his voice. It wasn't a joking tone or casual superstition. It was fear, mixed with fascination. What kind of pact? With him, with the devil, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. The man at the house does the intermediation. You show up there, say what you want, do the ritual, and that's it. Your life changes. But there's a price. There always is. No, man, it's not like selling your soul after you die. It's worse. They say he collects while you're alive, from the people around you. He starts by taking your peace and then he takes the ones you love. The other man laughed nervously. What bullshit, dude. Bullshit or not, Joe Ferguson doesn't walk alone on the street anymore, always looking over his shoulder. And his wife died last month. Massive heart attack. She was 29 years old, Bob. 29. They changed the subject after that, but I couldn't get that conversation out of my head. Highland Park, an old house, a man who did intermediations. It was insanity. I knew that. But desperation has a way of making even insanity attractive. I spent the next few weeks trying to forget. I picked up some freelance work, home visits for private patients, but it barely paid for food. Jennifer called every day, demanding money for Mom's medications. I had nothing to give. One August morning, I received a notification from the bank. My account was overdrawn by more than $2,000. They had blocked my card. I sat on the kitchen floor, phone in hand, and cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since I was a child. And then I made the decision. That same night, I took a bus to Highland Park. The neighborhood was a labyrinth of narrow, poorly lit streets, simple houses, many abandoned, with rusted gates and yards overgrown with weeds. I asked some people about the house where the man makes the pact, and most pretended not to understand. But an elderly woman sitting on the sidewalk in front of a corner store looked at me with a mixture of pity and warning. "You don't want to go there, son." "I need to," she sighed, pointing to the end of the street. "Last house before the curve, the one with the black gate. But listen to what I'm going to tell you. Whoever goes in there never comes out the same." I thanked her and went ahead, my heart beating faster and faster. The house was exactly as I imagined, old, peeling, with a black iron gate and windows covered by wooden boards. There was no light on, but the front door was ajar, as if it were waiting for me. I took a deep breath and went in. The smell was the first thing that hit me, a mix of mold, old incense, and something else, something metallic, like dried blood. The interior was dark, illuminated only by candles scattered on the floor. Symbols were drawn on the walls, circles, stars, words in Latin I couldn't read. "You came for the pact." It wasn't a question. The voice came from somewhere in the darkness. A man slowly emerged from the shadow, thin, tall, with sunken eyes and a disheveled grey beard. He wore dark clothes and carried a strong smell of smoke. Yes, I think so. There's no, I think so. Either you want it or you don't. What are you looking for? I just need things to get better. My mother is sick. I'm broke. I lost everything. He studied me in silence for a long moment, then nodded. "Follow me." He led me to a room at the back of the house. In the center, there was a makeshift altar with a statue that appeared to be of a goat, but with almost human features. There were bowls, knives, black candles, and what looked like a very old book open to a specific page. "The pact is simple," he said, lighting more candles around the altar. "You make a request, you offer something in return. He decides whether to accept or not. If he accepts, you seal it with blood." "My blood?" "Yes. 3 drops on the idol's head. That finalizes the agreement." I should have left, should have run from there and never returned. But the pain, the desperation, the feeling of drowning with no one to save me, all of that kept me in place. "What will he collect?" The man smiled, but there was no warmth in that smile. "That you'll only find out later. He always collects, always. But at first you'll think it was worth it." I agreed. He began to mutter words in a language I didn't recognize. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The candle flames trembled even without wind. I felt a weight on my chest, as if something invisible were pressing against me. "Make your request," he ordered. I closed my eyes. "I want my life to get better. I want money to take care of my mother. I want doors to open for me again. I want peace." Silence. Then I felt it. A presence. Not something physical, but a cold and ancient consciousness filling the environment. It was as if something were observing me, measuring my worth, deciding whether I was worthy or not. "He accepted," the man said, his voice now distant. "Seal the pact." He handed me a small knife. I held it with trembling hands, pressed the blade against my fingertip and made a quick cut. Blood instantly welled up. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops on the idol's head. The moment the 3rd drop touched the statue, I felt something pierce through me. A sharp pain, as if something had been ripped from inside me. The candles all went out at once. Darkness swallowed me. When I regained consciousness, I was outside the house, lying on the dirt ground. The gate was closed. There was no sign of the man, and something inside me had changed. The first few days after the pact were normal, good even. I woke up the next day feeling strangely light, as if a weight I'd been carrying for months had been removed. I had coffee, made some calls to old clients offering my freelance services, and to my surprise, 3 of them accepted immediately. I scheduled sessions for the whole week. On Wednesday, I received an unexpected call. It was from Rehab First Clinic, one of the best in Detroit, offering a senior physical therapist position. The salary was double what I earned before. I accepted immediately. Jennifer called that same night, relieved. She had gotten government assistance to cover Mom's medications. "It's a miracle, Mike," she said. "I prayed so much for this." A miracle. It wasn't a miracle, it was something else. But I didn't say anything. In the first week, money started appearing in strange ways. A client paid me double by mistake and told me to keep the difference. I found $200 forgotten in the pocket of an old pair of pants. I won a football bet I didn't even remember making. Each small victory made me more confident, lighter. Maybe, I thought, the pact wasn't so bad after all. Maybe the price wouldn't be as high as I imagined. I was wrong. The first strange thing happened exactly 10 days after the ritual. I was sleeping when I suddenly woke up, for no apparent reason. The apartment was plunged in silence. I looked at the clock, 3:33 in the morning, and then I heard it. A whisper, low, almost imperceptible, coming from somewhere nearby. It sounded like my name. "Michael." I sat up in bed, heart racing. "Is anyone there?" Silence. I got up and walked through the entire apartment. Living room, kitchen, bathroom. Nothing. All doors and windows were locked. I was alone. I tried to go back to sleep but couldn't. I lay there staring at the ceiling with the uncomfortable feeling that someone was watching me. The next day I convinced myself it had just been a dream, a remnant of stress. But it happened again the next night, and the next. Always at the same time. Always the same whisper. "Michael." On the 4th night, I wasn't alone. Jennifer had spent the day at the apartment, helping organize some things. She was sleeping on the couch when I woke up to the whisper. This time, it was louder, clearer. "Michael, you're mine now." I jumped out of bed, turned on all the lights. I went to the living room and woke Jennifer. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" She was confused, eyes half closed. A voice, someone saying my name. "Mike, are you okay? There's nobody here but us." She was right, but I knew what I had heard. It wasn't imagination. It was real. Things started to get worse. Shadows. I started seeing them in the corners of my eyes. Dark and undefined shapes that disappeared when I looked directly at them. They were always there, in the hallway behind the door, in the mirror's reflection. One night I woke up and saw a figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was tall, completely black, as if made of smoke. It had no face, but I felt it was looking at me. I was paralyzed, unable to scream or move. We stayed like that for an indeterminate time. Me, lying down, it standing, watching. When I finally managed to move and turned on the light, it had vanished. I stopped sleeping properly. The dark circles became deep. At work, I started making mistakes. I forgot appointments, confused patients. Dr. Harrison, my supervisor, called me into his office. "Michael, are you okay? You seem tired." "I'm fine, just insomnia. Maybe you should take a few days off." I don't need to. I'm fine. But I wasn't. At home, things were getting worse. Objects disappeared and appeared in wrong places. My keys in the refrigerator, the remote control inside the oven, my cell phone inside the bathroom cabinet. I didn't remember putting them there. And the smell. That sulfur smell started appearing in the apartment. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it kept getting stronger. Once, Jennifer visited and commented, "What a strange smell, Mike. Smells like burnt gas." I pretended I didn't smell anything, but the worst was yet to come. One night I came home late from work. I was exhausted, could barely keep my eyes open. I locked the door, threw my backpack on the couch, and went straight to the bathroom. When I looked in the mirror, I froze. There was a message written in what looked like blood on the glass. "UO." My legs trembled. I cleaned the mirror with toilet paper, but the blood seemed fresh. It appeared again the next night, and the next. Always the same phrase. "UO." I knew what it meant. It was a collection, a reminder that the Pact had a price. And then the first tragedy happened. My mother had a second stroke. Jennifer called me hysterical. "Mike, come quick, Mom fainted, she's not responding." I ran to the hospital, but when I arrived, it was too late. My mother was in a coma. The doctors said the chance of recovery was minimal. The brain had been seriously damaged. I stayed by her side for days, holding her cold hand, looking at that immobile face, feeling guilt eating me from the inside. This was my fault. I knew it. The Pact was collecting. What he gives with one hand, he collects with all of hell. The words of the man at the bar echoed in my mind. Jennifer fell apart. She was closer to Mom than I was, and seeing our mother in that state destroyed her. She started drinking, missing work. In 2 weeks, she lost her job. "This is your fault," she told me one night, drunk and crying. "You never took proper care of her. You were always selfish." I didn't respond. How could I? She was right. I was selfish. And now I was paying, but the price still wasn't complete. The apparitions became more intense. The shadow figure appeared every night now, not just at the foot of the bed, but everywhere, in the hallway, in the kitchen, inside the bathroom when I showered. And I started hearing voices. Not just whispers, but laughter. Multiple voices overlapping, saying things I couldn't fully understand, but that sounded like mockery. One night, I woke up with the feeling that someone was sitting on my chest. I opened my eyes and saw him. It wasn't the shadow figure. It was something worse. A pale face, almost human, but distorted. The eyes were completely black. The mouth opened in a smile that revealed teeth that were too sharp. "Are you enjoying the gifts, Michael?" The voice was deep, reverberating. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. "You asked, I gave. Now it's time for you to pay." The creature disappeared, and I stayed there, trembling, drenched in sweat, knowing that hell was just beginning. My mother died 3 days later. It was peaceful, the doctors said. She simply stopped breathing during the early morning. No pain, no struggle. She just went. Jennifer blamed me. She didn't say it openly, but I saw it in her eyes. Every look was an accusation. "You could have done more. You should have taken better care of her." The funeral was small. Few friends, some neighbors. Jennifer stayed on the other side of the cemetery during the entire burial, avoiding my gaze. When it was all over, she approached only to say, "Don't call me anymore, Mike. I don't want you in my life." She left, and I stayed there alone, looking at my mother's grave, feeling the crushing weight of guilt and emptiness. But the worst hadn't arrived yet. I returned to the apartment that night and found the door open. I was sure I had locked it. I entered slowly, heart in my throat. "Is anyone here?" Silence. I walked through each room. Nothing seemed out of place, but the feeling that someone had been there was undeniable. The air was colder. The sulfur smell was suffocating. I went to the bedroom and froze. On the wall, written with the same red substance from the messages on the mirror, there was something new. "She was the first. Your sister is next." My blood ran cold. I grabbed my cell phone with trembling hands and called Jennifer. It went to voicemail. I called again and again. Nothing. I sent messages. "Jennifer, answer me, please." Nothing. I ran to her apartment. I knocked on the door desperately. No one answered. I asked the doorman to open it. He was reluctant, but seeing my desperation, he gave in. The apartment was empty. Jennifer wasn't there, but there was something on the living room table, a handwritten note. I can't take it anymore. Sorry. My heart sank. I called the police, hospitals, anywhere that might know about her. Nothing. No one had seen Jennifer. For 3 days, I searched for her desperately. I went to every place she used to go. Bars, friends' houses, our deceased mother's house. Nothing. On the 3rd day, the police called me. "Mr. Carter, we found your sister." My stomach churned. "Is she okay?" A pause. "I regret to inform you, but your sister was found deceased. Apparently, suicide." The world collapsed. They took me to identify the body. It was her, Jennifer, my sister, pale, motionless, with slashed wrists and a disturbingly peaceful expression on her face. I broke down right there. Security had to hold me while I screamed, hit the walls, denied the reality before me. Jennifer was dead, and it was my fault. I returned home that night and sat on the living room floor, empty, no tears, no pain, just an immense and consuming emptiness. And then I heard the voice. "2 gifts have already been given. Now the last one remains." I looked up. The creature was there, standing in the middle of the living room, more real than ever. It wasn't a shadow. It wasn't an illusion. It was solid, palpable, real. "What do you want from me?" My voice was broken. "I already have what I want. Your soul is already mine. But I like to play a little before collecting. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to help my mother." The creature laughed, a horrible sound that echoed off the walls. "They all say that. I didn't want this. I just wanted help. But you humans never read between the lines. You never understand that every wish has a price, and that price is always higher than you imagine." "Why them? Why my mother and my sister?" "Because you loved them, and taking what you love is my favorite pleasure. Seeing you break, despair, lose everything, that feeds me." Tears finally streamed down my face. "I'll give you back the Pact. You can take everything back, the money, the job, everything. Just give them back to me." The creature approached. Its face was inches from mine now. I could feel the infernal heat emanating from it. "It doesn't work that way, Michael. What's done is done. What was taken doesn't come back. You signed with blood, sealed with your soul. There's no going back. Then take me now. End this." "Ah, no. You still have more to suffer. Much more. I said I like to play, and I'm not done playing with you yet." The creature disappeared, and I stayed there, alone, destroyed. In the following days, things got even worse. I started seeing things, not just shadows or figures, but scenes. Visions of my mother agonizing, of Jennifer slashing her wrists, of blood running down the walls, of pale hands reaching for me, trying to drag me down. I stopped going to work. I stopped leaving the house. I locked all doors and windows, but it didn't help. They were inside, always. The voices became constant, not just at night, but all the time. Whispers, laughter, screams, calling my name, cursing me, blaming me. I tried going to churches. 3 different priests refused to help me after hearing my story. One of them even told me, "You made your choice, now face the consequences." I looked for the man at the house. I went back to Highland Park, but the house was empty, abandoned, as if no one had ever been there. Neighbors said the house had been closed for years. No one lived there. I was trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. And then the creature returned one last time. It was in my bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, watching me with that horrible smile. "The time has come, Michael. You've had your time, you enjoyed your gifts. Now it's time to pay the full bill. What do you want? Your sanity first, then your life, and finally, your soul eternally. But I'll let you choose when it happens. It could be today, it could be 10 years from now, but each day you live will be torment. Each night will be a nightmare. Each person you touch will be contaminated by my mark. You'll carry my curse wherever you go." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can. Because seeing you suffer with anticipation is almost as delicious as the suffering itself." The creature stood up and walked to the window. "You know what's funny, Michael? You could have chosen to fight. You could have chosen to face your problems like a man, but no. You chose the easy way. And the easy way always leads to the same place. To hell." "Exactly." The creature turned to me one last time. "I'll be waiting. No matter how long you try to run, no matter how many prayers you say, no matter how many people you beg for help, you're mine. And when your time comes, "Ah, Michael, when your time comes, I'll make you wish you had died much earlier." And then it vanished. I stayed there, trembling, looking at the emptiness where the creature had been, and for the first time in weeks, a cold clarity took hold of me. I was damned. There was no salvation. There was no going back. Each breath was a temporary concession from a demon who delighted in my suffering. I looked at the nightstand drawer. Inside was a box of medications, anti-anxiety pills the doctor had prescribed months ago. An overdose would be quick, painless perhaps, but then I remembered the creature's words. It could be today. It could be 10 years from now. It wasn't going to let me escape that easily. Even in death, I would still be its, because that's what a pact with the devil means. It's not just selling your soul. It's selling it knowing he's going to play with you first, that he's going to take everything you love, that he's going to break you in ways you didn't even imagine were possible. And the worst part? The worst part is that you do all of this by your own choice. That night I sat on the bed and opened my laptop. I started writing, because if I was going to be damned, if I was going to carry this curse to the end, at least I could leave a warning. To whoever is reading this, no matter how desperate you are, no matter how hopeless your life seems, never ever make a pact, because the devil doesn't negotiate salvation, he negotiates damnation disguised as hope. And when you realize the mistake, it's already too late. 6 months have passed since that night. 6 months living in a personal purgatory. 6 months of constant torment, endless vigils, of sanity draining away like sand through fingers. The money I earned? Gone. I didn't spend it, didn't donate it. It simply disappeared. My account went back to negative. The job? I was fired after 3 consecutive weeks of absences. Dr. Harrison didn't even want to hear my explanations. He just handed me the termination letter and asked me to never come back. The apartment is falling apart. I haven't paid rent in 4 months. The landlord has already filed an eviction lawsuit. I don't care. There's no place in this world where I can escape what I've done. The apparitions never stopped. The creature, I started calling it just him, appears almost every night. Sometimes it just watches. Other times, it whispers things. Promises of future suffering. Detailed descriptions of what awaits me when I finally die. You're going to burn, Michael. Not for 100 years, not 1,000, for eternity. And each second will be as intense as the first. You'll beg for annihilation, but it will never come. I stopped eating properly. I lost 45 pounds. When I look in the mirror, in the rare moments I can, I see a stranger. A hollow man with sunken eyes and pale skin. A living dead person just waiting for the inevitable. I tried to seek help one last time. I went to an exorcism session with a priest who agreed to see me after much insistence. Father Augustine was an elderly man, over 70 years old, known for dealing with difficult cases. He made me sit in a chair in the center of an empty room in the church. He began to pray, throw holy water, make the sign of the cross repeatedly. For a moment I thought it might work. I felt something move inside me, as if something were being pulled out. But then, Father Augustine stopped. His face turned white. He staggered backward, knocking over the chalice of holy water. "What is it?" I asked. He looked at me with a mixture of horror and pity. "My son, you're not possessed." "What do you mean?" "Possession I can fight. Possession has a solution." "But you made a pact. You willingly surrendered your soul. That's beyond my power. It's beyond any earthly power. So there's nothing that can be done?" He lowered his eyes. "Only God can forgive all sins. But forgiveness doesn't cancel contracts you signed, sealed with blood. In spiritual laws, that's irrevocable. So I'm damned. We all are, in one way or another. But you accelerated your own damnation. I'm sorry, my son. I truly am." He gave me a final blessing, more out of pity than efficacy, and asked me to leave. I returned to the apartment knowing there was no more hope, and it was that night that everything changed definitively. I woke up at 3:33, always that time, always, with the feeling that something was different. The air was heavier, denser. It was hard to breathe. I sat up in bed and saw. The creature was there, but it wasn't alone. There were 2 other figures beside it. One was my mother, the other was Jennifer. But they weren't them, not really. They were distorted, corrupted versions, eyes completely black, grey skin, twisted and malevolent smiles. "You miss them, don't you?" the creature's voice echoed. "So I brought them back. At least, parts of them. Those aren't them. They're what's left. They're the parts I kept for myself. The souls you handed over when you made the pact. I didn't hand over their souls. I only asked for help for myself. Ah, but you didn't read the contract, Michael. When someone makes a pact, everyone connected to that person becomes vulnerable. Their lives become bargaining chips. And I collected. The figures of my mother and Jennifer began to approach. Their movements were erratic, unnatural, like marionettes controlled by invisible strings. "Mommy!" The false Jennifer's voice was dragged, distorted. "Why did you let me die?" "Michael," the false mother extended her hands. "Why didn't you save me?" I backed up until I hit the wall. "You're not real, you're not them. We are what you made of us," they said in unison, and then they attacked, not physically, but I felt as if invisible claws were tearing me apart from the inside. Memories invaded my mind, every moment of guilt, every selfish decision, every time I chose my comfort over their well-being. Everything amplified, distorted, transformed into blades that cut my sanity. I screamed until my throat burned. I banged my head against the wall, trying to stop the flood of guilt and pain, but it didn't help. When it finally stopped, I was on the floor, bleeding from my forehead, trembling uncontrollably. The creature crouched beside me. "This is your hell, Michael. It's not fire, it's not physical torture, it's carrying the weight of what you did forever. Please, just end this." Ah, but where would be the fun in that? The creature and the two figures disappeared, leaving me alone in the darkness. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't going to die. Not soon. He wasn't going to let me. Because alive, I was more useful. Alive, I could suffer more. Alive, I could serve as an example and as a warning. That's why I'm writing this. Not to redeem myself. Redemption is beyond my reach now, but so that others will know. The devil is not a figure of speech. He's not a metaphor, he's real. And he's waiting for people like me, desperate people, broken people, people willing to sell anything for a crumb of relief. And when you make the pact, when you seal it with blood, there's no going back. What he gives, he collects multiplied. And the price is never just your soul, it's the soul of everyone you love. Today is my last day in this apartment. The eviction order has been fulfilled. I'm going to the street. I'm going to wander aimlessly, carrying my curse, waiting for the day when he finally gets tired of playing and comes to get me for good. But until then, I live in hell. A hell I created myself. And if you're reading this, if you're considering doing something similar, if you're thinking that a pact could be the solution, don't do it, because the devil always collects. And when he collects, he takes everything, absolutely everything. I found this account in a laptop abandoned on a park bench on Detroit's east side in March 2024. I tried to track down Michael Carter through public records. I only found a death certificate dated November 2023. Cause of death, unknown. The body was found in an alley in the Highland Park neighborhood. Some details of the story were confirmed. Carol Marie Carter died in August 2023. Jennifer Carter was found dead in September of the same year. Both deaths were registered, but the details match what's written here. The house mentioned in the account exists, or existed. It was demolished in January 2024 after reports of suspicious activities. I don't know if this story is real. I don't know if Michael really made a pact or if he was just a man tormented by guilt and mental illness, but I know there are things in this world we don't understand, things we shouldn't try to understand. And if there really is a devil waiting for desperate souls, he's still there, waiting, always waiting. Subscribe to Darkness Activity and dive into more terrifying accounts. Comment below. Would you make a pact? Do you know similar stories? Like, share, and explore our other videos. Your interaction keeps the channel alive. See you in the next terror.